The Citizen Report is a production of New Shannon Media. All content protected under copyright.
And welcome to the Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon, and thank you for joining me early this morning. It's well after midnight here, to say the least. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. Thank you so much for joining me. My co-host, David Heller, is off. Well, I wanted to come on here and basically do a post-debate analysis of the first presidential debate of this season between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Now, I'm not going to do a whole lot of extensive analysis on this episode. Tune in this weekend. I will probably have like videos and things to show you, but I'm just going to kind of give my general impression of things, and I hope you appreciate it, because I think that there are many voices out there that, you know, there's no shortage of opinion, obviously, and I'm just one more guy. But I hope that hopefully this resonates with people. And basically, a couple things to say. First of all, I don't think I've ever saw a presidential debate this tense before. I mean, it was like, wow. And I thought the ones between Trump and Hillary were intense. I mean, this was just on another level, but in a weird way, because here's the thing. Joe Biden is clearly being propped up. I mean, I'm just going to say that, not to sound conspiratorial things, but it's obvious to me. I mean, it should be obvious to everyone. He's being, I mean, what you see on there is not his normal persona, for way he is these days. I mean, if you looked at his eyes, his eyes were just like, not all the time, but at times there was clearly something amiss about him. Like he's being propped up or something. I'm just going to leave it at that. But I will say, and you will have to tune in this weekend to see the footage, or you can go on Twitter. It's pretty well, it's starting to circulate pretty widely right now. We'll see if it gets censored, but apparently there's a clip. I didn't notice this. I did not notice this during the debate itself, but apparently somebody noticed that Biden was wearing a wire, quite frankly. And we kind of knew that was going to happen because it's obvious to everyone. I mean, clearly he's being fed information, one way or another. Like I said earlier, he's being propped up. I mean, it should be obvious to everyone at this point in time. Now, what I'm referring to by the wire is, if you imagine having a suit on, the suit he was wearing, there was a wire basically at one point kind of sticking out just a little bit, and then it became more obvious, but it was very, very brief. It only lasted a few seconds, at least based upon that clip. I don't know if that was the only occurrence during the debate, but that's the thing. It makes me wonder if somebody was talking to him and maybe perhaps they told him, hey, do this, pull it back in or something. There's just no telling. The amount of stars in the sky is basically the number of possibilities that could be with that. I mean, the wire could be for anything, but it's obvious to me that, and I didn't mean to get off on this for too long, but I just wanted to say that it's obvious that they're pushing Biden out there. And look, folks, I'm going to say this, and I'm trying to be as very clear here in saying that I do not believe Joe Biden is the real candidate. If he is, that would be genuinely shocking, because it should be obvious to everyone by now that Kamala Harris, she's really the one running, at least at this point in time. I mean, it would basically be a Harris administration. It would not be a Biden administration. I'd be surprised if they allow Biden to even take the oath of office if he won. Now, shifting gears here, talking about the debate itself on issues. I think Trump was well spoken. I truly believe that. I was absolutely rooting for him, and I'm even with my pro-Trump bias. I'm just being honest. I mean, I support Trump. Okay, I'm just being honest. Even with that bias, I can genuinely say that Trump was the one that made this that made sense, that should resonate with people. He was the one, he was the president for law and order. Everything that Biden said was clearly just political crap, frankly, if I can just use the word crap. I mean, it was just that. Now, I won't break things down too specifically, but I'm just, again, I'm just trying to give my overall impression of things. But I want to get to Chris Wallace. I think this is one of the highlights of this particular event, this debate. Now, I knew that with Chris Wallace that Trump would be having someone that would be critical of him, even though he is on Fox. Let's remember, though, Chris Wallace used to work at ABC. ABC's anything but conservative, and I'm just putting that very, very mildly. Consider the fact, now it wasn't back in that day, but nowadays, long after Peter Jennings, George Stephanopoulos, who was a political hack, still is, frankly, but he was working in the Clinton administration, Bill Clinton administration. He is now considered their chief news anchor, if you can believe that, in addition to his morning host duties on Good Morning America. Now, I say all that to basically say this, that as it pertains to Chris Wallace, it was obvious, and I think it's pretty obvious to everyone just about with a brain, that Trump wasn't just debating Biden. In fact, Biden in a lot of ways he's really just, and I better be careful what I say here, but he just has the appearance of being anemic, if that makes any sense. He just doesn't appear there. You know, like you look into the eyes of Biden and you don't really see there's a person, there's a living man there, or, a man there, but he's not really cognizant. Does that make any sense? I mean, I don't really know how to put that in better terms, but the thing is, though, it became more and more clear to me that it was almost like Trump was debating Chris Wallace in a way. Not so much that Chris Wallace would say you're incorrect. I think Chris Wallace was smart enough to not come right out and say petty things like that. But the thing I did notice was that Trump was, or I should say, Chris Wallace was literally saying, stop it, stuff like that. And it's just like, dude, you're speaking to the President of the United States. Yes, you're a moderator. That's one thing. You are supposed to moderate, but you're not supposed to talk down, if you know what I mean, if that makes any sense. And also, and I haven't done the math myself, but according to what other people have said, that basically Chris Wallace allowed Biden to have a free pass, and he would basically try to interrupt Trump a lot more, and especially as it got further along in the debate, I think that became more the case as it pertains to Chris Wallace trying to try and tell Trump, let Biden speak, it was such a joke, and Fox News. I think it just continues to reveal their true colors. I like Hannity. I like Tucker Carlson. I like Laura Ingraham. And I like Judge Jeanine Pirro. And that's I don't mean that mutually exclusive. There are others that I like on that network, but just to say, the network is moving in a not so good direction. I don't know what the future holds for conservative news on a quote unquote mainstream level in terms of turning on a TV and seeing a conservative viewpoint. But I have a feeling that sooner or later, Fox News is going to have to get some kind of competition of an equal status. One American News, I think, does a great job. Unfortunately, I don't get them on our current cable plan. Newsmax we get, and I haven't really watched a whole lot of Newsmax, I should say, in the last so many days. But from what I've seen of Newsmax, they're pretty good. So hopefully in time, Fox News will get more and more competition, if you know what I mean. But I didn't mean to get off on that tangent so much. But I also want to say this, that Trump, here's the thing. People want to say that Trump is, oh, his rhetoric, oh, he's so, that people, it seems like one of the things that people like to say that Trump is being too divisive or Trump is being too unpresidential, whatever the heck that means. He's the president. He can make the presidency whatever he wants to make it, with all due respect. And he's elected as president. And I'm really sick and tired of hearing people say that Trump needs to tone it down. No. Trump is doing everything right, in my humble opinion. He is being assaulted, frankly, by the mainstream media, by the left-leaning nut jobs, by the deep state. Most importantly, he's being assaulted by them. He has every right to counter them to whatever extent he deems it necessary. And frankly, let me say this too. Let me pose it to you as a question, I guess. Would you rather have a president lying to you using the softest language, like tickling your ear, I guess, as the Bible would say? Or would you rather have a president literally, just doesn't give a care in the world, about his temperament, so much so as telling you the truth? I'm just saying, it should be, the answer to that question should be more than obvious. And, the fact is, this president is extremely pro-life. The Democrats, let me say this too. This is not so much about the debate, but I want to say this too. I think this is a good opportunity to say it. The Democrats in the deep state, but particularly the Democrats, namely the Democrats, they are so terrified that Trump's going to put in a pro-life Supreme Court justice. Because let me tell you something. When this new Supreme Court justice is sworn in, and it will likely be Amy Coney Barrett. She's now been nominated. Trump has done his presidential constitutional duty. It is now up to the Senate to consider and confirm or not, Amy Coney Barrett. But it does look like at this point in time that it will happen. We'll see. Have to see how it plays out. They are so terrified though, because she's going to tip the scales now firmly in the conservative constitutional favor, at least conservative, hopefully constitutional. And basically, what could happen down the road, I think this will happen at some point sooner or later, is that you're going to have basically Roe versus Wade overturned. Because, look, abortion is so transparently murder. Okay? Okay? It just is. I mean, it's one of those, as Thomas Jefferson might say, we hold these truths to be self-evident, That, to me, is a self-evident thing. I shouldn't have to tell you that abortion is murder. It just is. And basically, and this is going to shock people when I'm fixing this, what I'm fixing to say here is, frank, people are going to be like, oh, you can't say that. Well, I'm going to say it. These Democrats, these abortion clinics, every time an abortion is committed, it is literally a blood sacrifice to their god Moloch, okay? And they need that. They get energy from that, from the blood of the innocent, okay? Do you understand what I'm saying? So, these people, they do not want to lose that. And I'm telling you that it will happen at some point. What realistically could happen is, we may see it, we're going to overturn it, it becomes a state matter. And then state by state, it has to be dealt with. But I think constitutionally, it should just be immediately, the ruling on Roe versus Wade should be immediately rescinded, completely, retroactively. Because in the Constitution, besides the fact that of the morality of preserving life, born and unborn, Constitutionally, which, by the way, like it or not, the Constitution derives its morality, derives its view of life, its view of a value of a human being, of a living man, a living woman, a living child. That it derives itself from the Bible. And people can get upset about that all they want. They can say, oh, we're not a Christian nation. Yes, we are. It just means, separation of church and state. All that means is I can't force you to become a Christian. In fact, that's completely ridiculous anyway, because Christianity is about free will. You either choose to believe and accept Jesus as your Savior, or a person rejects him. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it is. But getting back to abortion, the Constitution demands that you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And by the way, those words, as I understand it, we're actually supposed to read, and I'm quoting here, the right, or I should say, right of life, liberty, and property. The only reason the word property was not used was because of the fact that it would be construed, at the time, slavery was a thing. And they did not want, there was this controversy about the meaning of property, because unfortunately there was a time where certain individuals treated slaves as property, okay? Which is ridiculous. Because you're your own self under God, you're your own self, right? And basically, the founding fathers decided to instead use the phrase pursuit of happiness, because they did not want that to be interpreted, as I understand it at least, interpreted as slaves. I could be a little off on that. Hopefully I'm pretty close to being over the target on that, but at least anyway. But let me just say, I'm getting off subject, but let me just say, the Democrats are so panicked right now. They are doing everything in their power to stop what is coming. And by the way, nothing can stop what is coming. Trump will get reelected, I believe. And I believe Trump is on top of any potential voter fraud. And let me get to the election here. There's at least one other point I'd like to make before I wrap up. But let me just say this, that Trump, they're going to, I should say the Democrats, they are projecting right now onto Trump. They're saying that Trump's going to refuse to concede the election, quote unquote, when he loses, if he loses, And of course, I truly believe he's going to win, and I don't think it's going to be close, although because of voter fraud, it might appear close. But I think in reality, Trump's actually going to win by a very long shot. And, the Democrats are trying to create as much chaos as they can, and this debate was one of it. Because if you notice, Biden would just always, interject and try to say things and just throw stupid, ridiculous things out there. And it just caused a whole bunch of ridiculous tension. Now, people could say, well, Trump did the same thing. Well, here's the problem. Is that, again, Trump is always being attacked. He has never had a day of peace as president. I don't think a lot of people appreciate that. But Trump has always been under attack. And I truly believe that a lot of it, anyway, is spiritual attack. I mean, you see these people frothing at the mouth, saying the most vile things about Trump. And you can almost see demons coming out of them, frankly. They're just, it's like you want them to get saved and become a Christian, because it's just like, gosh. But oh boy. But let me get back to the debate here. I hope that you can appreciate why I went off on that, because I think those are important things to mention. But let me just say this as well. They mentioned about Trump's taxes. Well, Trump even said he has paid millions of dollars in taxes. And yet they want to keep throwing it out there about $750, and it's a complete farce. It's a complete farce. And as I was listening to the debate, Biden just continued to say what a terrible President Trump is. He doesn't care about you. Well, I'm basically copying what Trump said. If I believe it was him that said, but it's like, why didn't you do any of this during the whatever it is 40-something years you're in office, political office, and only now does he think of these genius ideas. And let me tell you something. Biden saying he's going to mandate masks nationwide. He's going to literally rescind the Trump tax cuts. And it's like, if that doesn't get people to turn against Biden, I don't know what does. Because as for masks, it should always be your choice. Now keeping this moving along here, and I'm getting to the close of this broadcast, but I just want to say this too. I mean, I have just, and it goes back to Chris Wallace. I just can't help but think of this picture in my mind of Trump debating not just Biden, but Chris Wallace. And maybe this is one of the final things I'll say, because I think this was a good point. A news anchor, and I don't know if he considers himself a news anchor, but we'll just say someone on the air at One American News, better known perhaps as OAN. One of the first things that this guy said was so spot on. And I'm paraphrasing, okay? But referencing Chris Wallace, he basically threw a box of Kleenexes on the anchor desk and said that Chris Wallace should get the brown stuff off of his nose. And I agree, because the way Chris Wallace was ridiculous. It was completely ridiculous. And Biden, I just truly believe that, and I think this may be something that I'm going to end on, is that the Patriots are in control. Yes, things look a little hectic right now. Things are going to get worse before it gets better. And I think you just, if you're watching this and you're hearing me say that, you just need to get that through your head right now. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And I don't mean worse in the sense that we're losing, but worse in the sense that this is what has to happen to get to the other side. When we get past this election, I believe only after that point do we see arrests take place of certain individuals. Because this is the only way forward, and those of you who know what I'm referring to, know what I'm talking about. The Patriot Intelligence Insider, I'll use that so I don't get banned off of YouTube because of their algorithms. But the only way forward is to let the people experience what it's like. And in states like North Carolina, we are living under this governor who is he's got to be one of the most tyrannical governors this state has ever bore witness to. I have not lived in this state all my life. Frankly, I probably won't live in this state all my life. Just putting it out there right now. But just to say that this governor is, and he's a milder example. But think about the governor of New York, the governor of California. The level of tyranny these people are conducting against the people is literally domestic terrorism in my book, including the governor of North Carolina, despite how he tries to come off as this meek and humble. And it's just so fake. It just is. It should be obvious. But people have to experience this tyranny, and people think that, Trump is doing, people think that Trump is this terrible person. No, he's not. It's because you were been brainwashed by the mainstream Mockingbird media. Okay? And it's just incredible. I saw someone post it on Facebook talking about Trump refused to denounce white supremacy. Go back and look at the soundbite back in 2017. He condemned white supremacy. But apparently you're too... I'm trying to watch my language here. People are just not willing to think for themselves. They got to be a little sheeple. They got to be little sheep, and they think. And it comes. And by the way, it comes in all shapes and sizes. There are those that say Trump's bad. Trump's an actor. He's not. He's fooling the people. It's like, are you really that ridiculous? I'm sorry. I'm so over it. But I'm coming to the end of the show here. But I just wanted to say, with the debate, I think Trump did really, really well, and I'll break it down more specifically. But on the issues, let me touch on that one more time. Trump mentioned how he's created jobs. He's got the best economy, and he's right. And the thing is that Biden, one of the tactics I noticed about Biden was that he was basically, it was almost like he was blaming Trump for COVID. And he would basically, it would just be this basically conflating COVID and Trump. It was like he was trying to blend the two together almost, and I'm referring to Biden here. And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. And I think I should leave you on a good note. Telemundo, and if you don't know what Telemundo is, it's a Spanish language television network. It's owned by NBC Universal, and you can probably imagine they're very, very far left-leaning network. Okay, but they did a poll, and I don't know if it's a poll that's still active, but they did this poll on the air during their coverage right after the debate. And Trump was coming out way ahead. I saw one screenshot where it looked like Trump was in the 60 percentile, and Biden was down in the 30 percentile. So people are waking up. The mainstream media, they do not know what to do because they can't stop the awakening. The awakening is happening right now. And I think people need to be a little more patient. If they don't see Hillary and Obama arrested right away, that they think, oh, Trump must be fooling the people and brainwashing the people into thinking he's going to do stuff when he's not. It's like, you don't understand. Things take time to set up. We've been under a tyrannical Federal Reserve note system for over a century now. And it's just, people think that Trump's supposed to just snap his fingers and boom, it's all done. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Think about Jesus. He wasn't born on day one and then he went out into his ministry. No, he was a full-grown man when he was in his ministry. Okay. So if Jesus didn't start his ministry as a baby, waited until he matured, well, I say matured, he physically grew into the, from a baby to a toddler to a boy to a teen to a man, do you get what I'm trying to say here? There are stages to things. There's timing to things. And also, timing is very, very critical. You cannot just throw the switch and arrest people. People have to be on board with it. That is what... See, here's the thing, and I'll wrap it up on this. I know, obviously this episode went beyond just the debate itself, but I think it's good to explain the context of everything and help you to understand why you just have to take a deep breath and stop letting the mainstream media manipulate you. But basically, the military, as I understand it, was going to do what was basically called Plan Z. They were going to restore the constitutional republic fully by, let's just say, not exactly through popular elections, shall we say. They were going to do it militarily, shall we say. But then they recruited Trump. So Trump is the front man, if you will, of this operation. It is a perfectly lawful process. And that's what we're seeing. But it has taken time to set things up. And I think people just need to take a deep breath and stop letting the mainstream media manipulate you, all right? So, again, I know I went beyond the debate, but I think it was good to explain all this instead of just throwing things out there. And I will be back this weekend. Of course, there will be other things to talk about. And by the way, I should have mentioned this at the front of the show, just very, very briefly, and I'm running out of time here very rapidly. But basically, Katie Fleeg, the missing 17-year-old girl from Indian Trail, North Carolina, she has been found. There's not too many details, but my understanding she was found up in Virginia. And beyond that, I'm not going to say anything further, but just understand she has been found. Okay, so if I need to, I'll report more on that, talk more about that this weekend. All right, everyone, have a great weekend, or great rest of your week, I should say. God bless each and every one of you. I will see you right back here again on the next edition of the Citizen Report. God bless you. Have a great day, everyone.